MZTV.
MZTV 1800. MZTV show number 1800. Let me tell you, the 1700s were killer. Oh, it was tough getting through the 1700s. Oh, I never thought I'd make it through the 1700s. I'm so happy to see 1800. Oh, you don't even know. It's been a haul since 1000. You remember our 1000th show? Oh, that was a doozy. The Christian God showed up. You remember? I celebrated show 1000 with the Christian God. For those of you who don't remember, I will link it down here, show 1000. And I know show 2000 will be here. I pray to God that the Lord returns before MZTV 2000. But if not, we're going to have to, my son Gabe and I are going to have to do another Christian God episode. I know everybody misses the Christian God. They want to hear more about the Christian God. And if we're still here for show 2000, the Christian God will be back. Welcome to MZTV. I'm Martin Zender, show 1800. Ex-lawkeepers suffer PTSD from Galatians 5. Headlines. Extra. Read all about it. Ex-lawkeepers suffer PTSD from Galatians chapter 5. And any verse having to do with wages or payments or demerits. And I can sort of understand it. People that have been through law and like the Worldwide Church of God people or the Baptists or the Pentecostals. I was raised Catholic, but my family, thank God, my family were bad Catholics. And the best Catholic is a bad Catholic. So we never did anything right. So, I was delivered from having to keep the law. But when any ex-lawkeeper tastes grace, then anything that even smacks of you doing something, they freak. I'm not going back to law. You're not taking me back to law. It's common. I've seen it over and over again through the years. And I had to learn this because, again, I was not brought up in law. I was brought up by a wonderful family. We watched Gilligan's Island, and I Dream of Jeannie, and Gomer Pyle, and the Addams Family, and just some great TV shows. We ate frozen dinners in front of the TV. My dad loved me. My mom loved me. My sister even loved me. And I loved her. It was an idyllic family. And then every Sunday we had to trudge to Catholic church and we did our duty. And then we came home and had fun. In fact, on the way home from church on Sunday, this was great. My dad would often pull into McDonald's. That'll shake it off. That will shake it off. Any kind of leftover Catholicism, leftover law keeping, anything left over will be dissolved when those French fries hit your palate. Let me tell you, my dad would say, "What do you want, kids?" And automatic. It was like one word to me: hamburger, French fries, milkshake. Hamburger, French fries, milkshake. It was one word: hamburger, French fries, milkshake, and it was heaven. Chocolate, of course. Now, it was only later in life when I learned to appreciate vanilla. Yes, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a disorder. So whenever Paul talks about behaving, like in Romans 12, he says, walk worthily of the calling. No, God, no, you're not going to make me walk worthily. Damn it, I'm not going to walk worthily. And they just hate Paul. They want to rip Romans 12 out of their scriptures. How dare Paul tell me to walk worthily? I'm not going to walk worthily. Damn it, I'll walk any way I want. I'm not getting back into law. You're not taking me back to law. There you go. It's the same thing with Galatians 5. Anyone committing these sins will not be enjoying the allotment. Oh, Paul, you're throwing law back at me. I'm through with that crap. You're not tricking me. And the thing is, people are saying, I'm bringing you back to law. When in fact, I'm reading Galatians 5. That's why I said on Friday, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just going to spend one day on this. But it's so instructive, really. It really is instructive, and I want to be helpful. And so I think I can be helpful. I think this title is helpful. See, I had a breakthrough understanding over the weekend because of being barraged with objections. How dare you teach law. How dare you? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm teaching Galatians 5. Or, anyone who works will get wages. And we know Aaron Seamster hated that. Somebody told me Aaron bailed. Okay, well, I'm not crazily upset about it. You seem to be a one-trick pony. You seem to be the head of this spiritual communist that, it's not right for God to reward anyone. And again, another PTSDer probably, I'm thinking, doesn't want to hear anything about somebody getting anything more, doesn't want to hear anything about members of the body of Christ suffering loss at the deis of Christ, even though that's my teaching, it's Paul's teaching. But some people, they just don't want to hear about it. It's PTSD because of what they went through. And so I'm going to deal with a few questions here, a few objections, strenuous objections that came against me, of all people, me, an innocent little fuzzball, relaying the information. Here it goes. I agree with the vast majority of your teaching. I rejoice in your teaching labors. But this reward/allotment stuff stinks. It stinks. This reward/allotment stuff stinks. The stench is so bad. This is a visceral reaction, let me tell you. This is coming right from the liver. It reeks of law and self-righteousness. Well, first of all, if I can say that this, quote, reward allotment stuff is Paul's teaching, I hope this is understood by one and all. If not, I shall just refer quickly to 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 8. He was planning and he was irrigating are for one thing, yet each will be getting his own wages according to his own toil. Wages. This is another way of saying reward. Wage is the Greek word misthos. The English element is hire, Hire, and it is translated in the concordant version wage. It literally means compensation for service. You're being compensated. God is going to compensate workers. Well, that stinks. I'm not sure I'd say that to Paul, because you're saying it to Paul. And also, this reward/allotment stuff stinks. The stench, so bad, I'm quoting, it reeks of law and self-righteousness. I'm going to fix that misunderstanding. Other people might have the same misunderstanding, so this is good. It stinks. Okay, well, I'm not sure I would say that, because you're basically, Paul says in verses 19 through 21 of 2 Corinthians 5, apparent are the works of the flesh, and he lists them. And then he says, and the likes of these, which I am predicting to you, according as I predicted also, that those committing such things shall not be enjoying the allotment of the kingdom of God. As you can see, it is Paul who uses the word allotment, not Martin Zender. There are certain people who shall not be enjoying the allotment of the kingdom of God. What's the allotment of the kingdom of God? Well, that's a separate question. But for now, these are Paul's words. And so our objector, our friendly ex-law-keeping objector, says, this stuff stinks. You're barking at the wrong tree. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're aiming the gun at the wrong guy. You have a problem with Paul. Tell Paul that 1 Corinthians 3 and Galatians 5 stinks. And the stench is so bad. It reeks of law and self-righteousness. Now, as I'm going to show you, there's no law in the context. This is part of the damage that has been done to certain people in their ex-religious lives. Now, anytime Paul tells somebody to behave themselves, people are going to freak out thinking that Paul's bringing them back to law, or that the messenger is bringing them back to law. In this case, yours truly. I'm an innocent little fuzzball. I haven't done anything wrong. It reeks of law and self-righteousness. And then he says, don't take things personal. Oh, no, I try not to. I'm just being honest and sharing the truth that I hold to. Well, I mean, I see what's happening. You're having a post-traumatic stress disorder reaction to something that you think is law, that sounds like law to you, but it's completely not law. And then the objector says, I'm completely disgusted by self-righteous works teachings. So you're accusing Paul of self-righteous works teachings? It's Paul who says that we will receive wages for our works. And in the same context, may I remind you, some of our works will be burned up. Works/and teachings. If we teach wrong things, if we've taught rotten teachings, they will be burned up at the deis. This is after we're saved, obviously, after we're snatched away, after we're made immortal. We shall all appear at the deis of Christ. It's not judgment. King James calls it judgment seat. It's not a judgment seat. I wrestled with these things, even though I was raised on hamburger, french fries, and milkshake. I wrestled with these things back in the early 80s, and in the 90s, I had the opportunity to talk to the business manager himself of the Concordant Publishing concern, Mr. James Coram. I said, James, at the deis, will it hurt? Will it hurt? I actually asked this, not in that accent, but I said, Mr. Coram. James Coram, I invited him to my conference to speak. Very knowledgeable man, the most logical man you'll ever, if you've ever heard any of his tapes, any of his messages from the Concordant Publishing concern, go to concordant.org, go to James Coram. Amazing intellect, spiritual man, just has it all figured out. Most of it, I should say, most of it. He died recently, which was sad. Again, I really like the guy. Very nice. I visited him a couple times, once with Dan Sheridan. Maybe it was twice with Dan Sheridan, actually. Anyway, I said, James, will the deis of Christ hurt? He says, no. Or the way he said was, no, no, it's impossible. We're immortal at the time. We're immortal. We have the mind of Christ. That's how he talked. A little mousy, but smart guy. We have the mind of Christ. We have the mind of Christ, and we're immortal. So no, it will not hurt. It'll be a relief. It'll be like, oh, thank God that crappy teaching's gone. If there are any bad teachings I've taught, which I don't think there are, I mean, I take stock of things, and I try my best to be on the right track, to believe scriptures, to ignore my emotions, to apply laws of language, to understand figures of speech, and by the time I'm done, I think my teaching's pretty solid. But let's say that some crazy rogue teaching of mine gets burned up. Since I have the mind of Christ at that time, I'll be like, whew, that's a relief. Nobody's going to be hurting at the deis of Christ. It will not hurt. It's not a juvenile question. I don't think James Coram didn't make fun of me at all. But it is certainly not a verse, and neither is 2 Corinthians 5, of self-righteous works teaching. This is being read into both passages by this objector. Being read into both passages. He goes on, I believe that law and works teaching creeps in very deceitfully. Well, in your mind, maybe, not in mine. In my mind, law and works teaching is way, way done with. Self-righteousness is not even possible anymore because we were crucified with Christ. I believe that law and works teaching creeps in very deceitfully, just like it did with the Galatians. I think this reward/allotment misinterpretation, what misinterpretation? Just reading the words on the page, is another example of works and law bondage. No, this is an example that you are suffering post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms from having been through a law church in your early days, and now you've been introduced to grace, and now you hear Paul mentioning something about an allotment, about missing out on enjoyment or missing out on wages, and now you're freaking out because it's just like the guy who was in the Vietnam War. He's fighting the enemy, shooting, and his buddies are getting blown up, and he returns to civilian life. He goes through psychotherapy and everything. He's trying his best, but he's in the street and he hears a car backfire. Boom, he hears a loud noise, and he instantly starts to shake, instantly starts to cry, instantly needs alcohol. I mean, this is common, and it's a real thing. This is not, my friend here is not faking it. It's real. But he's completely reading it into the passage, artificially. Artificially. I think this rewards allotment misinterpretation. Nobody's misinterpreting anything here. Is another example of works and law bondage. I will not allow any man to bring me into bondage. Good. Including Paul. But you see, the problem is you think when you say, I will not allow any man to bring me into bondage, you're basically stiff-arming Paul here. That's what you're doing. You're stiff-arming Paul. Paul, I'm not going to even consider Galatians 5, or I'm going to misinterpret the hell out of it. Actually, this objector misinterprets it big time, as I will show you. I'm looking at my time. I'm probably going to have to continue this tomorrow, but this is very valuable so far. Do you like it so far? I love it. I think it's going great. It's the objector who's actually misinterpreting the hell out of it and actually changing the meaning of what Paul is saying. Me, simple old Zender, who believes as a child is just believing what it says on the page. And I know that the man who said that we're no longer under law is not going to bring law back. It'd be stupid to think that. And any interpretation that would put any kind of law slant upon these passages is stupid and incorrect. I will not allow any man to bring me into bondage. No way. I am not worried about an allotment or rewards, etc. Not one bit. It's like, I will show you. I'm not even worried about an allotment or rewards. Okay, but Paul, you do realize that Paul mentions the word allotment, right? You do mention that people who are doing certain things will not be enjoying the allotment of the kingdom. And we're going to get into what that is. I've taught on this before, but here it comes again, so I'm sorry. You have to go through with it for, it looks like 2 days. I thought 1 day. I'm not worried about an allotment or rewards. It's like, I'll resist this. Screw these rewards. This is, again, PTSD. It's just bleeding all over the page. I'm not worried about allotment. Okay, well, I'm not worried about anything. Paul says not to worry about anything. So why would you even consider being worried about a scriptural teaching? This is basically like saying, I'm not worried about this scriptural teaching from Paul. Oh, good. Neither am I. I'm not worried about the allotment teaching in Galatians 5. Well, congratulations. I'm not either. Why would you worry about it? I'm not worried about the rewards teaching of 1 Corinthians chapter 3. I'm not either. Good. Philippians 4:6. Do not worry about anything. I stand for pure grace and the glorious work of Christ at the cross. So do I. This is my response. Brother, you are completely reading self-righteous into it. You are assuming that anyone being rewarded would be self-righteous. This is also the problem, the PTSD reaction of Aaron Seamster, who apparently has jumped ship. Okay, is that right? He's not here anymore? Okay, well, he's welcome back anytime. It's the assumption that anyone who receives wages is self-righteous. My question is, how would self-righteousness even be possible in one who completely understands that whatever they have obtained from God? In fact, everything that we have obtained is from God. So the fact that our objector here would put self-righteous works, would call Paul's teaching self-righteous works, either the teaching that Paul is basically exhorting people to not do certain sins in Galatians 5. He's exhorting them. And one other point I will make before this show closes, I have more details to give on it, this has nothing to do with salvation. But our objector here imports that, as you're going to see in future comments. He imports a lot of things in here that are not here. He imports self-righteousness into it, not there. He imports law into it, not there. And importing salvation into this passage. Importing law, importing self-righteousness, importing salvation. As if this has to do with how you're saved. It has nothing to do with salvation. And only ex-lawkeeper going through PTSD symptoms would actually see self-righteousness in here. Well, if you're getting wages, you must be self-righteous. I expect to get some wages at the deis. I'm the least self-righteous person I know. If I get a trophy, let's say I get a big-ass trophy at the deis, there will be this chap and Aaron Seamster going, oh, look at that self-righteous Zender. God, self-righteous bastard. Look at that guy. What do you think? He's a lawkeeper? I'd be like, thank you for my trophy, Lord. And I would kiss it. I would kiss the Lord. Because to the scriptures. Because 1 Corinthians 4:7. Who is making you to discriminate? This is what this objector is doing. This objector, by the way, is wild boar. Who is making you to discriminate? Why are you discriminating between people who get rewards and people who don't get rewards? I don't discriminate. They're just as wonderful. The people who don't get an extra trophy for service are just as wonderful as the people who do. Why are any of you people discriminating? Paul goes on. Now what have you which you did not obtain? Now if you obtained it, why also are you boasting as though not obtaining? Wild boar's not boasting, but he's making room for it by thinking that anyone getting wages at the deis of Christ would think for a second that they were getting something that they didn't get from God. But Paul says, what do you have which you did not obtain? My God, it's all the grace of God. He thinks this is of works too, this object. I'll go back to calling him the objector. Thinks this is about works. I'm completely disgusted by self-righteous works teachings. Well, this ain't one of them, bro. You need to go somewhere else to find self-righteous works teachings. You're not going to find it in 1 Corinthians 3 or 2 Corinthians 5, where Paul is teaching that there is an allotment that will not be enjoyed by those who do this and this and this and this and this. And also, I will say this, I'll save this for tomorrow. This is juicy. This is very juicy. The objector also assumes that this is like one and done, like you sin once. Like hey, I'll bring this up tomorrow, but like who hasn't made a mistake? Of course, yeah, who hasn't made a mistake? But this isn't making one mistake. These are continual. These are people like continually, and I'll prove that tomorrow. I'll prove it tomorrow. Oh, 1 Corinthians 4:7. What do you have that you did not obtain? And I'm surprised that a believer this mature really would assume that anyone receiving a wage, I don't know if Aaron Seamster is mature. I don't know anything about him. I know Wild Boar, good friend of mine, continues to love the guy. He loves me too. There's just this issue here, and it needs to be dealt with. Yeah, these are legitimate questions that, again, I've seen it over and over and over again. Anytime the Apostle Paul talks about behavior, people freak out. In fact, I know a guy out west. He doesn't want to hear, he literally freaks out whenever Paul talks about deportment. Whenever Paul, for instance, says in 1 Corinthians 15:34, sober up justly and do not be sinning. It's like, oh, he can't stand. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. Because he was brought up under extremely law-keeping religion. And so people just want to hear Paul talk about grace, about how we're saved by grace. That's all they want to hear about. Same with the objector here. All he wants to hear about. Nobody wants to hear anything. These people have this PTSD issue. They don't want to hear anything about rewards, wages, loss, allotments, missing out on an allotment, ruling and reigning, not ruling and reigning. They don't want anything to do with it. Because they assume that, well, for one thing, they assume that, well, you must be teaching free will, Martin, if you think that someone can work for a reward. I do believe people can work for rewards, but I don't believe in free will. No way in hell. Everybody knows that. But Aaron Seamster accused me of teaching human free will just because I follow Paul in running a race. I'm running to win this race, literally to win it. I want to win it. And Paul encouraged Timothy to do the same, run so as to win. You have to follow the rules. You have to have love. If you don't do everything in love, then your racing is worthless. Okay, I'm following these rules. And Paul says, if you're not disposed to this in Philippians, then okay, don't be disposed to it. But if you are disposed to it, be like me. I'm racing for a prize, for a wreath that the Lord will be paying me in that day. Paying me. This is not salvation. We don't get paid salvation. We get paid for wages. And there you go with 1 Corinthians 3 again. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Get that 1 Corinthians 3 away from me. Do you think I want to not enjoy the allotment of the kingdom? Then I'm going to make sure I'm not doing this shit continuously. Yeah, we'll all slip up. This has nothing to do with making mistakes. Nothing to do with sinning with one-off sins. These are continuously doing these things. These are what James Coram called, this is not me, this is James Coram. He said, these people in Galatians 5, going to get into this more tomorrow. I got more objections coming up, more glorious objections and more beautiful answers by yours truly. You make sense for a living. The reason I'm coming out of the gate like this on Monday is because it feels great to make sense again. I mean, I make sense during the weekend also, but I just keep it in mostly. You know, I don't brag about it or anything, but when my show starts, I can boom, let it rip, and let my sense just come flying out of me, and I love it. I love it. So these assumptions that free will must be involved. No. That law must be involved if you're going to give people a prize. No. This must be a self-righteous teaching. No. Nobody getting a prize at the deis is self-righteous because they know where their prize came from and they know who did the work through them. And here's another place where people trip constantly. I'll get into this right at the end here. People trip constantly that God rewards people through whom he does the works. Not everybody, but a lot of people have a problem with this. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They're like the objector of Romans 9. For who has withstood his intention? Why is he still blaming? For who has withstood his intention? Paul says, who the hell are you to question God? Paul talks about a protester who will protest and say, why is God still blaming people for doing bad things? Why is God still judging Pharaoh when he made Pharaoh hard? And Paul says, who the hell are you to question God? And that's what I would say to all these people. Who the hell are you? You assume that God can't reward somebody unless that person did it on their own. No, he rewards people constantly for things they couldn't have done on their own. Because it's a two-sided coin. God blames people and he judges people he makes hard. He also rewards people through whom he does the work. Philippians 2:12-13. God is operating in me to will and to work for the sake of his delight. So he's working in me, he's doing the work through me, and then he's so gracious, he rewards me in the end for the work that he did through me. And I take it, and I shake his hand, I say, thank you very much. No, I hug him and kiss his feet, thank you. What a self-righteous bastard. Look at Zender, he's taking the trophy, he's actually taking it. Yeah, but he knows that God did the work through him. It just pleases God to reward people. It pleases God. He wants to hand out the hardware. He wants to. Just like he wants to blame people that he made hard. But it's for their ultimate good, you understand. You got to understand that. And I want to make sure before I leave here that you understand that. Whatever God does, it's for everyone's ultimate good.